So in this video, I'm going to show you really simply the best way to take your arrow from your quiver and put it into the bow and nock your arrow. So this is something that's perfect for beginners because it can feel really fiddly, kind of putting the arrow in, making sure it's nocked on the string the right way around. Perfect for beginners, but even if you're an advanced archer, this can be really helpful to save time and just make your overall shot a lot more efficient, especially if you're doing any team round kind of things. You don't want to be fumbling with the arrow at all. So this is by far the best way to put the arrow in the bow. The first thing we want to say here for beginners is you might have your arrows in front of you on the ground. You may be in a ground quiver, that kind of thing. The process is the same. The crucial step here is to grab the arrow by the thumb and index finger right at the tip of the nock. So right at the end of the nock, like this. So you grab the arrow there by the end of the nock so that when you put the arrow in the bow, it's easy to do so. You don't want to grab the arrow by the middle here or something like that, because when you put it in, it's going to be fiddly. So I'll show you the process. Literally, all you do, I'll move my bow up here just to show you for demonstration's sake. All you do, grab the arrow by the thumb and index finger, bring the arrow up, place the arrow onto the arrow rest, slide it along. Then when you get to the end, so now I'm holding it with my two fingers still, my finger and my thumb. When you get to the end, you simply lift the index finger off and then slide over, put the index finger back on, and then nock the arrow. So I'll do it again. Arrow's in the quiver. I bring the arrow up, place it onto the arrow rest, slide it along. Then when I get to the nocking point, I just remove the index finger, put it back on past the nocking point, put the arrow forward and nock on the string. Really simple. This is the most simple way to do it. Now, a few points. As you saw in the overlay there, I've got a clicker. If you're a beginner, you won't have a clicker, so you don't need to worry about that. But if you're an advanced archer and you do have a clicker, you simply just use your index finger to pull the clicker up, like you saw in that video. Also, when you're putting the arrow in, so you've placed it on the arrow rest, if you're a beginner, it's really important to make sure that the orientation of the fletches, as you can see here in this overlay, the orientation of the fletches needs to be correct to the bow, so that you need to basically have the arrow this way to the bow so that the fletches are going to pass the bow. You don't want that way. You don't want the fletch to hit the bow. So this is actually one of the reasons why this method of nocking the arrow is so good, because by grabbing the nock, when you're feeding it in, you don't have to look in the quiver. I can now just rotate the arrow as I'm putting it in, and I can visually look, if I need to, I can visually look at the fletches, make sure it's the right way around, or eventually over time, because the nock is asymmetrical, you'll be able to feel which way round it goes. So you can bring the arrow up, finger brings the clicker, slides along, and then I'm just rotating it. I can feel where it is, I can visually check, slide it on, click onto the string. Super simple. So it's much easier to do this way. So if you look at the video again, it's much easier to do it this way compared to the wrong example, which is grabbing here by the middle of the arrow and then feeding it in. Really awkward, as you can see from this overlay here, this clip of doing it this way. Really awkward and much harder to do. So that was a really simple video. I hope you found it useful, especially if you're a beginner kind of wondering why it's so difficult to put the arrow in. There is an easier way. Just grab it by the thumb and the index finger. And even if you're an advanced archer, I think this can be really useful, especially when it comes to team rounds, saving time, that kind of thing. As always, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, make sure to hit that. When I release new videos, you'll be notified. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.